The Lighthouse stars Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe and is directed by Robert Eggers. This is his second movie he's directed, right after The Witch, which I still haven't seen yet, but I heard it was very good. And now he's directing another movie for A24 titled The Lighthouse. And this movie has been such a pain in the ass to track down and to see in theaters. I was really anticipating this movie, mainly because the trailers and all the photos that I've seen of the movie looked very different and unique than what we've normally been seeing in theaters, especially for A24. So its initial release date was October 18th. So I called all my local theaters. They all said the same thing. We don't know when we're showing it. We don't know when its release date is. And I kind of said, and then I said to one of the ladies, but I thought its initial release date was October 18th. And she said, it is, but it's for a limited release. So we don't know when it's going to open wider. So I said, okay. I tried again that next week. They all said the same thing. We're not sure when we're showing it. This happened for about 2 weeks. And I got so frustrated because I wanted to see this movie this year. I was hoping it wasn't going to be like most other limited releases where it gets a limited release at the end of the year, and then at the beginning of next year, it gets a wider release. That happened with Patriots Day. And I said to myself, I really want to see this movie this year, and I'm hoping it doesn't get a wider release at the beginning of the year. Finally, Halloween night, it opened up in my theaters, and it opened up more wider. It got more of a wider release. So I said, I finally was able to see this movie. Let's get into this. So the plot of this movie, as simple as I can make it without giving away major parts of the movie, is that Willem Dafoe owns this lighthouse where the movie takes place in, and Robert Pattinson is hired to help him for a few weeks. That's the general idea, but the movie really is about a claustrophobic horror drama type movie about two men going completely insane from the isolation that it's just these two in this one area. It's, they have to deal with each other, and it's really a psychological horror, which is something I didn't expect it to be. I didn't know what to expect with this movie, but I didn't think it was going to be a psychological horror. This year seems to be the year for movies of people going insane, because this movie really delivered on that. It was very small scale, very claustrophobic, and the script is the thanks for that, as well as the great performances from our two leads, which I'll get into in a minute. But I think why it worked for this movie so much is because it's so contained. It's so small and claustrophobic that you really believe it when these two characters start to act weird or start to act, insane, because it's handled that well, honestly. Now let's get into our two main leads, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. They are phenomenal in this movie. Absolutely phenomenal. My favorite actually being Robert Pattinson's character. You really feel bad for this guy because he was just there to help, and Willem Dafoe is kind of toying with his sanity throughout the movie. And Willem Dafoe himself was freaking awesome to watch. He kind of speaks like a pirate in this movie. Like, the first time Robert Pattinson says yes sir to him, he kind of slams on the table and says, "Aye, sir." And so for the rest of the movie, he has to say, "Aye, sir," whenever he says yes. But both of them really sold their performances, and I wouldn't be surprised if that both of them get Oscar nominations, because their performances are phenomenal. And I will definitely say now that thanks to this movie, I can call myself a fan of Robert Pattinson. I never hated him, I was one of those people that didn't really like the Twilight movies, thought he was really bland in those. But lately he's been doing very good with these smaller independent movies. And I have to say, for this movie, I have no problem saying I'm a fan of Robert Pattinson now. I've always been a fan of Willem Dafoe, though, so I knew he was going to be good. Now with the pros, I love how this movie looks. This movie is very dirty, very disgusting. The film aspect ratio, I think, is 4:3. And I'm not going to demonstrate it. If you want to know what 4:3 looks like, you can do a quick Google search. But that was one of the key aspects that drew me into the movie, because no movie nowadays does a 4:3 aspect ratio. And the whole movie's in black and white too, but you can just feel and see the disgusting and just it's so dirty nature of this movie. It makes me now not ever want to work in a lighthouse ever. Not that I ever would, but if I ever got the opportunity, I'd say hell no, because it's just disgusting. And like I mentioned with the characters, I really loved Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. If it wasn't for these two actors and the chemistry they had and the back and forth that they do, I probably wouldn't watch this movie again. And I also like the editing of the movie. It's a small thing to mention, but since I'm a movie review channel, I probably should mention that. The editing's very good in this movie. Everything goes to the next... Each scene goes to the next scene very well. The special effects, I don't think were CGI. The special effects look like how they would have filmed special effects in like the 1940s or 50s. You know, it looks very old school, and I kind of wish the sound, you know, how, you know, they talk through the microphone would have sounded a little bit old school too, but that probably would have been a little too much for modern moviegoers. But yeah, just everything about this movie. I don't think there's a single thing that I didn't like in this movie. Even though I was very conflicted after the movie ended, which I'll get into in a minute. Even though I was conflicted, I didn't really see anything that I just really didn't like about the movie. There were some things that I was unsure about, but nothing I just straight up hated about this movie. And that kind of defeats the purpose of getting into my cons that I just said that, because I don't really have an issue with this movie. Some people might. I can see some people having some issues with this movie, mainly for how the movie ends. No spoilers, don't worry, but the way it ends is gonna leave people unsatisfied and really confused. And that was a big thing for myself, and one of the reasons why I was really conflicted when the movie ended. I was just confused by that ending. It's well acted and well shot, just like the rest of the movie, but when it ended, I saw it with my dad. We both just kind of said, what was that about? And once I did some research about things and hearing fans' interpretations of it, it clicked in my head, and I was like, oh, that's smart. That's pretty smart right there. So I can see modern film goers not liking this movie. It's definitely a weird movie. It's very out there. But for me, I didn't mind that. I don't mind weird and out there type movies. They could be some of the most entertaining movies out there. So overall, I was very conflicted when this movie ended, mainly because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. You know, when I heard it was a black and white horror suspense movie about two people in a lighthouse, I thought it was going to be something a little bit more different. I kept hearing there's also fantasy elements in the movie, which do play out a few times, but now that I've pieced together my own interpretation of what goes on in the movie, I would say the fantasy elements aren't really fantasy. If you've seen the movie, you can kind of catch my drift. And, you know, I can't get into it because it's spoilers, but once everything got pieced together for me and I started to think about things more, I really like this movie. I really, really like this movie. I want to see the movie again. Maybe not in theaters, but this is definitely a big standout for movies this year. Very unique, very different, but just keep that in mind. It's not for everyone. There are going to be mainstream people that are going to hate this movie, and that's okay. You know, it is very much out there, and a lot of people aren't going to like that, but for me, I like movies that are weird and out there, and, you know, those art house type films. I like watching those, so for me, this was a definite yes for me. I really, really like this movie, and I can't recommend it enough for film buffs out there. If you're more of a casual moviegoer, I'd say, probably not, but for film buffs like myself, I would really recommend checking out this movie. And I'm just going to say it, The Lighthouse is Oscar worthy. I can't praise this movie enough. I was very much entertained from beginning to end, and it's not for everybody. Again, it's not for everybody, but I would recommend this movie for film buffs out there. So if you've seen The Lighthouse, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. Look forward to more videos coming very soon. I gotta wrap this up because my battery's about to die. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, click right here, and I will see you guys next time.